Good day, everyone. It's Jim Norris from Backstage Insider, and we have with us today uh, Canadian star and legend and many other things. Um, and it's Natalie McMaster we're talking to today from lovely Lakefield, Ontario. How are you doing today, Natalie?
I'm doing great, Jim.
Excellent. So I just want to go way back, and it's one of the questions I usually ask is people's musical background with their family, but with you, I kind of don't even have to ask that because
That's right.
it's it's so strong, and your family is musical in every direction you can think of. But you were born in Cape Breton, from what I understand.
That's right. Yep. Cape Breton Island, Nova
No,
Scotia.
yeah, Nova Scotia is just amazing. My wife and I go out there quite often in July for our anniversary. And so we've been all over well, all of except Newfoundland. We haven't been there yet, but all the other provinces. So you started playing the fiddle when you were 9, I understand.
Yes, yes, that's correct. Yeah, I
And
got I I got
was
my
that the idea of parents? I assume it was.
No, actually, the story is that we always had a fiddle in our house. It was a full-size fiddle. It sat on the dining room table. It was just always there. And my dad would pick it up from time to time and play a little tune. I can remember like picking it up. It was so big. I would have been it was too big for me to hold, and kids weren't playing the fiddle, like, young kids weren't. I just didn't think of it, and my parents didn't really either. When I was 9, I received a three-quarter size fiddle from
Oh,
a grand uncle in who lived in Boston, and it wasn't specifically for me. He sent it up with the instructions, "Give this to any one of the McMaster kids." And I was interested in it. So I said, "Well, I'll try it." And I tried it that night, and that's it. That's how I started. And it was me who decided, like, it was my decision. So that made it all the more
wow,
special.
for sure. And did you take lessons at all when you started?
Well, for the first 6 months, my dad did show me the basics. And
Right.
then I took probably 2 or 3 years from Stan Chapman, who lived near almost an hour away from us, who traveled
Oh, okay.
every week. Yeah.
And do you remember what method book you used way back then for
Nothing,
violin?
nothing like
No?
that. He just taught tunes, little bit of the note reading. Yeah.
Right,
He was an
right. Well,
excellent teacher.
oh, good. That's excellent. So you were actually performing live and recording pretty young, from what I read.
Yes, 16. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. And how did that come about?
Just wanting to, like, I always wanted to be really good. Like, I wasn't in it for the fun so much as I was in it for the quest to make great music.
Right.
Like, I just always, when I'd play, I'm like, this isn't good enough. I just wanted to get better and better. And making a recording kind of came to me when I heard someone else who was very young make a recording. And I thought, if they can do it, I can do it. Because prior to that, I hadn't, it hadn't entered my mind. Like, no one around me was making recordings, not even people like my uncle Buddy McMaster, arguably the most famous Cape Breton fiddler ever, was 60 years old and he still hadn't made a recording.
Wow.
Yeah. So it just didn't cross my mind. So when this young person, he was the same age as me, had made a recording, that's what planted the idea in my head. And so I
And
went
where
for
was
it.
that? Where was
I
that
did it.
first?
I did that in
Where was it
Halifax.
recorded? Oh, okay. Do
Yeah.
you remember the studio?
Yeah. Yep. Um, Gosh, that's awful that I had you not asked me the question, if I wasn't thinking about it, it would come out.
It's okay. It's okay.
Studio H, or I'd have to look at my book, actually. I did write the name of the studio in my book.
Yeah, no problem. So that, you were you signed to a label after that was recorded?
No, I made 3 records before I was signed with a label.
Wow. So you just put those out yourself?
Yep, 16, then I made another one at 18, and I made another one at 20, and then my 4th recording was with a record company.
And which record company was that?
Warner Music Canada.
Oh, cool. That's
Yeah,
great.
very
That's
exciting at the time.
Oh, yeah, that's great. So you were one of the first indie artists in Canada, really, I guess, way before it was fashionable and in less than mainstream style of music. So you were quite a pioneer.
In ways, I suppose, I've never looked at it or thought of it like that when you say yeah, to hear you articulate it that way, maybe so. I never analyzed things too much. I was just interested in the music, not the stats.
Oh, that's good. And what about playing live in those days? What kind of concerts or appearances were you doing?
I did a ton of live performance. I started that at age 10. I started playing in local community halls, and it wasn't hard to have gigs, so to speak, because in Cape Breton, they rely on all the local talent for their events. There's a ton of like community events with variety shows.
Right.
And me being the niece of Buddy McMaster, word spread a little faster, maybe. That was a good asset. And then, being the daughter of Minnie Beaton, my mom was a well known step dancer in her day. And so, yeah, we frequented all the functions. So people heard about it and just would call us up, say, hey, we're having this event. Can Natalie play? Great. And so from age 10 on, 11, 12, 13, 14, I remember when I was 12, I actually went to the States for the first time and played for a square dance at the Canadian American Club in Watertown.
Wow.
When I was 14, I went to the Expo 86, a huge performance. We played for 2 weeks at the Folk Life Pavilion in Vancouver, and that
Right.
was with a group of people I was asked to perform with. So that was
Excellent.
really exciting. And when I was 15, I went back to Vancouver for a folk festival, and it just continued on there. And then I started like back down to the States a little more. I forget how old I was when I went to Europe the first time, probably 20, 19, somewhere in there. So, and it just, every place was just building, 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 building. And then coming out with that record on the record label, it took it to another level. I remember I did a commercial for Tim Hortons, and that was
Yeah.
a national ad campaign, and that was uh, definitely another notch. And then I did a commercial for Farmers Milk in Nova Scotia, the brand Farmers, and I was on the milk cartons for like 2 months. My picture on the
Wow.
side of a milk carton with, talent by Natalie, energy by Farmers,
That's
Farmers
great.
Milk. Yeah. So things like that just helped expose me to a wide variety of people, even though I wasn't a vocalist. So a lot of avenues were kind of closed to me,
Right.
but other interesting, unique ones were opened up. And so I got a fair bit of like just fame, I guess, through those outlets.
Excellent. And the good thing about, commercials for other musicians that are listening is that they pay quite well and they pay for a while that,
Not
you're getting
these ones, not these ones. I was too
no?
young to know. I was too young to know. I didn't have management,
Uh,
at that time, like, when I did that Farmer's Milk ad, uh, I think listen, I don't exactly remember, might have been $1,000,
oh dear. Okay.
and they used my, I had done a big photo shoot for it, and they used those photos. I didn't realize what they were getting used for. They were used for billboards. They had my photo on billboards above the bridge. Like, it was the amount of exposure was insane. So I don't really care that what they paid me, the amount of exposure I got that from that propelled my career, which made me, I suppose I would have, because I was becoming more popular, you can get a higher rate when you're performing live and those types of things. So it had positive spin-offs. Same with the Tim Hortons
Right,
thing. I don't think it was that much, but honestly, if Tim Hortons came to me now, said we're not going to pay you anything, we're just going to do a national ad campaign with you, I'd be like,
right.
okay, maybe
Yeah,
they're listening.
that's great. And did your records in those days get any radio airplay?
They would have on some more obscure radio stations. I do remember a few little radio stations. Well, they weren't that little, but they were in America that played a lot of folk music. And
Right.
um, yeah, I definitely got play on those places. But like, no, general mainstream radio, no, not at all.
Excellent. And I many many years ago, when I was going to University of Toronto, as part of my studies, I took violin, and I found it the most difficult and frustrating instrument that I'd ever played. And I was when I got to the end of the year, I remember my teacher, Mrs. Kuzmich. She was a violinist in the Toronto Symphony, and she said, "Jim, I'm giving you 50 because I never want to see you again." That's exactly what she said because I was just so bad at it. And the interesting thing with, I guess, all the stringed instruments is that there's notes that aren't even notes. I mean, I'm not even sure what they are. On a piano, if you hit a note, it's on the scale somewhere, but there's on the violin, fiddle, there's notes that are kind of in the cracks.
Well, there's
And
not supposed to be, but if you got no frets, they're gonna land in the cracks.
yeah, yeah, no, it's true.
That's funny.
It's a difficult instrument, so I appreciate your artistry for sure.
Well,
So then, over the next few years, I guess, once you were signed to Warner, how
yes.
did your how long were you with Warner, I guess, and how did your career change?
Well, my career changed in that, I guess I won't say changed. It was more of the same, but it was
Right, right,
more, more TV exposure, more, like, well, performances, live performances for sure. More, I can remember like having to charter airplanes to be able to physically make it from that gig to this next opportunity. I remember maybe it was Conan O'Brien or it might have been ABC, Good Morning America, or I don't know. There was some serious, like, sh- uh, American television that was happening for a while, and same in Canada too. I was actually playing a lot more in the States in those
and
years. Yeah.
which cities had an appreciation for Celtic music?
It was all over. It was all
Everywhere?
over. Yes, everywhere. Pockets. I mean, obviously a place like Boston, we had great success there. Um, but I mean, didn't matter if it was like Idaho or Wisconsin or Montana, or I know I'm naming anyway, yeah. Like it was all over the place. Yeah.
And is that still the case, do you find that it's still
Yes.
pop?
Yes. Celtic music, folk music, whatever branch it can fall under, because there's a variety of overlap. If you get a bluegrass community, there's a lot of similarities. Bluegrass is so instrumental, right? It's not hard to, if you like bluegrass music, it's not hard to like fiddle music or, you know,
Right.
Celtic music. Like it's even got probably related. It's probably related somewhere down the line. Or, you know, um, yeah, like no matter where you go in the world, somebody told me the other day, said every city has like in the world has like an Irish pub, so there's pockets everywhere you go.
That's great. And, recently, well, I guess it's not that recent, but in the last few years, you've teamed up with, Donnell, your husband, and I notice you have a shared website, so you're appearing, together quite often?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah. It was always a dream when we first got married. We're like, what will the future hold? Will we make music together? I mean, it was exciting to think about that. Here we are, two fiddlers, both with our own careers. And we're like, well, I hope someday to make music with you, you know?
Yeah.
Very exciting to think about. So yeah, we're been making music together a long time now, and having 7 children, and they all play as well. They're making music with us.
Yeah, that's amazing, and of course, his family is extremely musical as well.
Oh yeah, Leahy is like
Incredible.
just incredible.
Yeah, that's great. So, I notice, you've been doing some touring in Canada and that you're off to Scotland in the next few months?
Yes, heading to Scotland in the next few weeks. I think
Oh, is it?
we're
Excellent.
well. I think yeah. I'm not sure. I don't know the calendar off by heart too well. Um, but yeah, we're heading over very soon, and we've yeah, we kind of got out of playing Europe for a while, especially there was a good 15 years there, well, 20 years really, just where we didn't travel that far. Like
Right.
we just kept it to North America. And I ended up just like letting my agent over in Europe go, and it was just too daunting.
Yeah,
But now we're heading back over there. We've started last year. It's nice. We've got an agent back over there again, and it's nice to reconnect, like with so many old friends. Yeah,
for
because I went
sure.
over there a lot in my 20s. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
53 now, so.
Wow.
And I suppose at some point you'll be mentioning the book because I'm dying to talk about that.
Absolutely,
Is that on
absolutely.
your upcoming list of questions?
It's on my big long list that I put here. Well, let you brought it up. Let's talk about the book. So, in addition to everything else that you do in your life, you've recently written a book, and if you can tell us about what the book's all about and where the inspiration came from, and obviously writing a book is a huge project in itself.
It is. It is. Everything's always more work or a bigger endeavor than you imagine it to be when you start.
Yeah.
Because yeah, you start, you think you plan out, okay, it'll take about this long to do this, and you're gracious with the time. You're thinking, okay, I'll add extra time built in. When you actually go through the process, there's so much that happens along the way that you never anticipate, and everything is always more complex than you imagine. So this was the way with the book. It was a big deal to commit to writing the book. I was scared to commit, but I knew I had to do it. And luckily, Danelle was convinced I had to do it as well. And the inspiration came from, well, first of all, it's been often said to me, Natalie, you should write a book. Now, I do have a book out. It was probably 15 years old. And it's a book that it's very much a picture book, but there's a good story in there that another lady wrote out. It's my words. She interviewed me and she pieced it all together, though. And so she did all the real grit. And so, but it's a number of people have said, you got to write your own book. And I'm like, well, I have nothing to say. Like, what am I going to do? Tell my story? It's already in the other book. And this one day I was driving to the grocery store by myself, and Maria would have just been born. She was probably a few months old, but because I had lots of older kids at home and I was able to go by myself. Now, mothers can appreciate this. Having 7 kids, I never went rarely anywhere by myself. Even on gigs and stuff, there was kids with me or at least a nursing infant or something.
Right.
So I was on the way to the grocery store myself and I got to reflect, and I was reflecting on the conversation I just had with Danelle. It was all, what's going on in the media, what's going on in news, what's going on in current events. It's just horrific stuff. And again, this was many years ago. And I had also been talking to my mother that morning, and she was saying the same stuff, but in local Cape Breton. talking about what was going on at home in Cape Breton.
Right.
And it was so bad. And I'm just thinking to myself, we're not safe anywhere. Little sweet Cape Breton, like we're not free from harm and the heaviness of life and the terrible evils that can happen. And I just got really weighted. And being a mother of seven, perhaps I was hormonal too, who knows? But I just started thinking, what kind of world do my children have to live in? How are they going to find good people, just to elevate themselves and to be with in life? And I started thinking of my kids and thinking of my husband and thinking of my parents. I started thinking of Cape Breton. I started thinking of the music I've been able to make and the good people around in my community. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky. And then I realized I have a love story. I started thinking of all this beautiful love in my life and I started to cry and I was thanking God out loud, saying, thank you for this love that's surrounded me my whole life and what I've been born into and what I've married into and, my motherhood and all these things. I was just so appreciative. And I was just like saying, I have a love story. And then I thought, well, maybe with the weight of the world, maybe we're all missing the boat with all the screaming that goes on. Do this, do that, and life should be this way, and things should be this way. And I thought maybe we're all just missing the point. Maybe the point is quiet and simple, basic, everyday love. And I became on fire, wanting to promote love, and to learn about love and to encourage people to go understand what does it mean to love. Because I realized at age, I would have been 46 at the time, that the love I received was what anchored me through a lifetime, through my
Right.
46 years to that point. Like I had strong roots in love. And so I just wanted to express that and that was the motivation for the book. I had something that I was just driven to share, and how would I craft it? And luckily, I partnered up with I won't say partnered. I don't know what his official term would be, but he helped me through the whole book. Um, in a way that was like, his name's John Serafini. He was actually a teacher of my kids for literature. And so, yeah, he was just really great to draw out of me things. And so I really appreciate, like, for example, little things. He was coming at it from a fan's point of view. So he would ask me questions. Like I'd say some stuff, send it to him. What do you think, John? He's like, well, who's this person? And why are they important in your story? And flush that out. Tell me about them. Or this event you went to. I don't know anything about that event. Tell me about the event. Like your father-in-law. Like what was he like when you first met him? All these things that I was just, you know, passing on the way by. He said, no, these are important. I want to find out about these. So I really wanted to make the book a good read. And the questions that he would ask me really prompted me to kind of tell a little bit more about my story. Um, kind of just to make it interesting, to make the book interesting. There's so many interesting things that happened to me on the road. So the book is also a collection of just interesting little stories of life. But even those interesting stories still really reflect love. Even the story about opening for Carlos Santana, talking about it was just a trio. We only found out about it a few hours before. It was for
Wow.
80,000 people. Um, yeah, 80,000 people is massive when you're only used to playing for not 80,000, like not near 80,000, like
Right.
1,000. Anyway, and so, but even that whole story just also reflected the amount of like desire I had to please the audience, to do a good job of what I was doing. That was all molded in me from the love of my parents. And I don't state that, but I'm hoping when people read the book that they'll understand that these are good. things for human beings to want to be, to want to give to people, to want to make people feel good, to want to dedicate yourself to something, to try your best, to be as good as you can be. They're all rooted in love,
For sure. No, that's
and we
great.
don't
And so it's
and we don't think of it like that. So yeah, sorry,
uh
go ahead.
yeah, so it's not just about music and not just for music fans. Your book touches everybody really, or should, because they,
Hopefully,
yeah, and I think the thing about the East Coast that always um impresses me is the family is so important, and just the pace of life is makes way more sense when you're coming from Toronto or Montreal or a big city, and you go out there and it just slows down. And people on the East Coast are so friendly. You just feel like you're related to everybody, even if you aren't. It's
yeah,
when you go to the ECMAs, it's amazing. And at the ECMAs, you see 15-year-olds and 80-year-olds in the audience that are enjoying the music. So
yeah,
it's a whole, and
that's
I guess
right.
where you live now too at Lakefield is obviously a good pace of life. It's a beautiful area,
Yeah, I'm just outside of Lakefield, but yeah, between there and Peterborough. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So one obvious question is well, just I'll come back to that, but where can people get the book? Is it in normal retail stores, Amazon, I assume?
All your favorite bookstores should be carrying the book, and Barnes and Noble, Chapters. Yes, Amazon. You can have it delivered to your door if you like. Yeah, and local little bookstores. Yeah,
Okay, that's great. So, one obvious question is with your busy life, how have you balanced that with your family life, especially considering you've had 7 children,
yeah. Balancing, balance. That's the key to it all. I don't know. I just go with it.
right?
So sometimes I'm like, I can remember how long ago was it? Maybe 6 months ago. I said to my management, I have to take a month. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm not doing daily emails, answering people. I'm done. I have to be done for the sake of my family and our balance and our I'm a mother first. I just don't, and they're like, okay, cool. And they were so great. And they just absorbed the extra workloads or questions, and I also had to deal with that fact that people were going to make decisions that like on my behalf that I wasn't going to be hearing about. And I just had to live with whatever was being done. And I just had to get away. Um, so that, yeah, just on the heels of a whole bunch of stuff that required me. And I just didn't feel I was mentally attentive enough on things that were required with home life.
Right,
And, so that's kind of the story of my whole life. I just squeeze things in where I can at moments like writing a book or doing a big project. I will get help. I'll get babysitters or someone to come in to help clean or make a meal.
right.
I'll just shift things as I need to, or if it's going the other way and it's like, oh my gosh, it's too much time away getting other people to do things for me. I need to be the one, the central figure. And so, when that project's over, I set it up so that, okay, now I'm fully in mother mode. And it just kind of, that's been the whole thing over the last 20 years since I've become a mom.
Excellent. So just in closing, if you could talk to a fiddler now in Cape Breton somewhere who's just getting started, what
Mm,
what advice would you give them? Obviously, times are different now than when you started,
mm.
but what would your um, advice be for success?
I would say, first of all, what a beautiful thing. What a
Right,
beautiful thing. You will carry this music with you till you die.
right,
Then I would say, be great. Strive to be great. And as hard as it is to practice, you'll realize that the more you practice and the more you invest yourself, the easier it is to practice and invest yourself.
Right.
because you'll get inspiration from that. I always say music breeds music. I also say laziness breeds laziness.
That's
Like
true.
if you just get into something and you go, or if it's so like just stay at it, stay at it, stay at it. And there'll be days where you're like, it's driving me nuts, and you'll be, but mostly it's going to be such a great adventure. And remember, it's bigger than you. It's bigger than you. It's music. You're part of music.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Natalie. Great luck with your tour coming up and with the book. And yeah, and have a great day.
Thank you very much, Jim. Nice to talk to you.
Take care.
Bye bye.